I always say that I can see things as like Photoshop layers when you live in the city for as long as you do, because you're like, oh, that used to be this, which used to be this, which used to be this.
Yep.
And so you can really look at it and you're like, okay, like that market was the same, but I remember there used to be this like African tiki mask store.
That was San Francisco born and raised artist Melan Allen. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco, a podcast all about the artists, activists, and small businesses that make this city unlike any other. I had the good fortune to meet Melan at the Fillmore Jazz Fest last summer. Some friends and I were walking up and down the street, seeing what the event had to offer, when we stumbled across a booth with bright, colorful art that all had one thing in common, at least when it comes to subject matter. It was all about food. Then we noticed the person who seemed to be running the booth. She was a young woman dressed head to toe in a fried egg onesie. I knew at that moment that I had to meet this person. Fast forward to last fall, when I got in touch with Melan. She chose Patricia's Green in Hayes Valley as the place for us to record, for reasons that will become apparent in part 1. Oh, and sorry for referring to the spot as Patricia's Grove. Oops. In this episode, we meet this artist and hear all about her family's roots in the city. Here's Melan.
I had to do some research too.
Oh,
because I forgot about where my origins are and all this stuff. So I had to I was like, Dad, where were you born?
Right. You did your homework.
Yeah, I had to really think about it.
Awesome.
Because I haven't thought about it in a while.
You had to get it front of mind.
Yes, exactly. So, hello, my name is Melan Allen. I am a large-scale food painter, and I only paint food. Mm-hmm. And I am a third-generation San Franciscan.
Okay.
My family was born here, or basically born here. I was born here. And then my grandparents were not born here, but basically lived their entire lives in the city.
Right.
Up until, I would say, the 2000s.
Okay.
Like that.
Going back to maybe, the 60s?
The 60s,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good chunk of time.
It's a big chunk of time. If you spend majority of your life in one place, I think you can say that you're from there.
Yeah, especially born in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Especially
for sure.
born.
But yeah, I'm from the city. I've been here basically my entire life up until 2 years ago. I just moved to Oakland 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
we still love you.
I mean, look, I still love the city.
You have that advantage.
I still love the
your
city. I think that it's a complicated relationship.
Yep.
But it's kind of, I describe it as it's your first love.
Yeah.
Right. We love it, but also there's a lot of responsibility with whatever your first love is.
Yeah, and what's the line from Last Black Man? You can't hate it unless you love it.
Yeah.
That's 100%
and
true.
I love it, and I also hate it.
It drives you fucking nuts.
It drives me nuts.
It's like a family member.
Yeah.
In that way. It's like, you're never going to stop loving it, but goddamn, close the toilet seat or whatever it is.
Yeah, yes, I know. Exactly. there are things that I don't know. I flirt with the idea of coming back a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just hooking up with your ex again, you're like, see, this is why we broke up.
It might sound good. Good on paper, as they say.
Yeah.
Let's hear about some of those grandmother lines.
Yes.
Or grandparent lines.
Yeah.
And how they led to your parents and then you.
Yeah, so my mom's mom came here from Texas in the 60s. Mm-hmm. There was a big push for black people to get out of Texas. I don't know if you know about this, but in the 60s, they had a lot of people being like, hey, you should move to San Francisco or whatever.
Chicago.
And get a government job and you can live your life and happiness and whatever. And so they were just like a huge push, and my grandmother was like, hell yeah, let's do that.
Do it.
So she
I also know, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, I know through doing this podcast that, I spent the first, I guess, 18, 19 years of my life in Texas.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there were black towns
Oh yeah.
all over East Texas.
Oh yeah.
There might still be some. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. But I'm like, the amount of stories I hear exactly like your family, I guess your mom's family,
Yeah.
are just that. Like they had these communities that probably went back however many generations.
Yeah.
And then it's no coincidence
Right.
that a lot of those folks came out here to California. Yeah.
And then the minute that you come here, right, you see that there's like a bunch of other people from Texas, and you're like, oh wow, so it feels like you're, all doing the big migration together. You feel kind
Yeah.
of like close.
Yeah, sure.
So
And I can go on record as saying that difference between Texas and like the moment I got here, I was like, oh yeah, this is
Oh,
where I
yeah.
need to be.
oh yeah, like it is.
It just ain't Texas.
See, that part I don't know.
Right.
Because like
I bet
growing
your
up
grandma
here
does.
is like, I kind of feel like it feels like you're growing up in Oz.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just like, everyone wants to be where you are,
Right.
but you're like, I don't know anything other than Oz.
That's all you know, right?
So
It's always been in color for
yeah,
you.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You just don't have all these cool things
Right.
happening all the time.
Right.
And now, I mean, talk about golden cage, but like that's a whole other thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so my
Okay, so Texas. Do you know if your mom remembers Texas, or like how old was she when her family came out?
she was like a baby.
Baby.
She was
So no
like
memories of
2,
Texas.
3.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. I hope she feels grateful to her
I
family for
I
coming
think
out.
about this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
what would my life be like if I stayed in Texas? Right? Like, if my mom stayed in Texas. And I'm like, I mean, on one hand, it's nice to be able to have that Oz moment. And I'm like, I wonder what it... But then there's also, like, the unlearning and all the other stuff that
It's
you
a
have to
whole
do. Yeah, it's a whole other
psychology thing
Right.
where it's
So-
like, you'd be you.
Right.
There'd be some element.
But it would take so much longer for you to get to authentic you now.
Correct.
Because you're doing this like inauthentic, or not inauthentic, but just like that.
Different.
It's just that, yeah.
Just different, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. Not to
Well,
go down a rabbit hole, but yeah.
I'll say that you do stand out here. You would hella stand out
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah, I mean.
The you that is you right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting into some
Yeah.
real trippy shit here, and I swear to God,
Philosophy
I'm sober
stuff.
anyway.
Okay, so yes.
But okay, so your mom's family's here now.
Yes. So my mom's family been here forever, since the 60s. My dad's family has been here even longer than that.
Okay.
Not sure where my grandmother on my dad's side is from, but my dad was born here. And so, yeah, I mean, we basically stayed in this neighborhood in Western Addition / Hayes Valley up until I was 16.
Okay.
My mom grew up in this neighborhood and was here since she was a kid. And, this is basically home. Like, this whole neighborhood, even though it's, different.
just a little bit.
Just a little different, and it's not just the freeway exit.
Yeah.
It's still kind of home.
Yeah.
There are morsels of home somewhere.
Yeah.
I had to find it a little bit. But
I parked over there on Grove. That feels the same. So I moved to San Francisco in the year 2000. Probably came to Hayes Valley for my first time 2001 or something. So I've seen the change since then, and
Right.
that's dramatic.
Yes.
I can't imagine for you and your family, like,
Yeah.
what y'all have seen. But
Yeah.
but it does feel more like it used to over there.
Yeah, no, there are,
I'm pointing from Hayes toward Grove
Yes.
for listeners.
So...
Oh, and we're in Patricia's Green, which you chose.
Which I chose.
Because it's here in the neighborhood that you grew up in.
Yeah. And, like, I'm looking at the Grove Street Market, which is like the place where I would get ice cream as a kid.
Yes.
And like I would, walk there, get my favorite ice cream, go home and watch movies all summer long.
Yes, you would.
That was my thing.
Hell yeah.
And there's like a little bit of like, I always say that I can see things as like Photoshop layers when you live in the city for as long as you do, because you're like, oh, that used to be this, which used to be this, which used to be this.
Yep.
And so you can really look at it and you're like, okay, like that market was the same, but I remember there used to be this like African tiki mask store that was like diagonal from there. Yeah. And there was just a like black guy with a huge dashiki, and like he would just play like really cool like Afro beats all day long,
like,
and it
out
would be,
into the street.
Out into the street, and it would smell like all these different incense, like, and it's funny because like now it's just like a vintage store or whatever, but like like there's just like little tidbits of like, oh yeah, that used to be this.
I love your analogy to Photoshop. Are you familiar? There's a I guess it's an architectural idea called palimpsest.
No, I don't know this.
Or historical, or I don't know what it is, but the idea is like things being built on top of things that are already there, like and so like it just kind of keeps going, moving outward,
right? Like paint layers.
But there's layers, like you're talking about, like the Photoshop layers.
It really
of
does.
History.
Yeah, it really does. It comes back, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of left, because I was seeing so many different layers of the city, and I think that like really, it messed me up.
Took a toll.
Yeah, I ended up being one of those crotchety old men who was just like, it's not like it used to be. That used to be, and I was just like, I am a young person. Like, I shouldn't have to be thinking about the city of like in that kind of way. Right. And so
you're not old enough to pine for the old days.
Right.
But it happened, and is the point. Yeah.
So I needed some time, and I'm glad I did, because like now I can come back to the city and be like, oh,
you can be at peace.
Yeah, I can be at peace. I don't have to see everything as what it once was. Yeah. I can see it for what it is, and that's one of the things that I envy about people who come here, is that they just see what's in front of them
with fresh eyes,
and they appreciate for what it is.
We hope.
Yeah,
a lot of them do.
True.
A lot of them don't.
That is very true. But like there is a feeling of like I have to let go. Right. And that's for me. And I want people to explore the city and love the city and like hear stories about the past and get that context. But I think my job as someone who's been here is to, let the history go and to appreciate the present.
Okay.
So that's kind of the opposite. Yeah, exactly. There needs to be both. Sure. Right, but there needs to be a balance.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm like, maybe one of these days I'll move back, because I do love it. And I asked my dad like a couple months ago. I was like, Dad, do you miss the city? And he's like, yeah, of course.
Where is he now?
He's in Richmond.
Richmond, California.
Yeah, Richmond, California. He moved out. We got evicted from my grandmother's home.
Here in the Western Addition.
Well, no. She grew up, she had a house in like Ingleside. Okay. And then my dad took over the house because she wanted to move to Clear Lake, California. Okay. And so we took over the house, and then we got evicted from that house. Oh, man. And
how old were you?
I was...
Like, do you remember it?
Oh, no. I mean, I was like 19 or something like that.
Okay.
This was right... It's in that weird time of your life where you're like, I want to move away from being with my parents, but I'm not really sure how to do that. Right. And so that was I I think I was just kind of pushed off that ledge when I got evicted, because I was like, okay, now I'm just going to be the adult. I have to, like, pay rent and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, like, I could have stayed with my dad, but I was like, I'm not going to stay with my dad. If I'm being pushed off a ledge, I'm going to figure out how to, like, do my own shit, you know?
Like, as shitty and traumatic as it was, you took it as, like, a sign or a motivation
right. Yeah. Okay. It's like, it's forced growing up.
Yeah. But that's actually good of you. I think to...
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
No, I think there was still like I still had a couple of years of growth to do, for sure. But I mean, obviously no regrets. I enjoyed my time, and I learned so much about, like, growing up from, like, being like, okay, whatever's money in your account is the money you have.
Yep.
You know, no one's coming for you. No one's gonna save you.
Right.
It's time to grow up. And you know.
You said you have a sister.
I have a sister, older sister, younger brother.
Okay, so you're the middle.
I'm the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did y'all grow up close?
Yeah, relatively.
Or?
Yeah, and I think we are just completely different people.
Oh yeah,
and
that
I think we
happens.
all just kind of like did our own things.
Okay.
Are
you the only artist?
I was gonna say yeah.
You're the creative one. Yeah.
Well, okay, so creatively, my family has been creative for quite some time. So my dad's a playwright.
Awesome.
My mom's like hardcore crafter, like just the craftiest person.
She's making stuff.
Constantly making stuff.
Yes, I love it.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, and we do not want to be cured.
Okay.
Like, I like, there is no rehab for crafty people.
Right. Okay.
So we've always been creative. We were always in, like, able to be creative in the home. Like, if we wanted to paint, well, my mom didn't want us to paint the walls, but I did anyway. Yeah. She's like, you can do a lot of creative things, just don't paint the walls, and I did it anyway, because I don't like rules. So.
Okay. Know thyself.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, if you would ask her to tell one story, it would be the painting of the wall story. So it's like, see, you just made that up out of nothing.
Right.
Rules are made to be broken. So
I like to hear these stories. It wasn't true for me in my life, but, like, for musicians growing up in a house where, at the very least, like, music was always on, or like, you know, the older generations appreciated or talked about music or played. Yeah. With writers.
Yeah.
Like, maybe your dad, I don't know. But, like, with artists, it's like, sounds like at least creativity was encouraged.
Oh, it was ever present.
That's okay.
It was ever present. So my dad would constantly be playing, like, musicals, plays, all the classic movies. My love of classic movies comes from my dad, for sure. Okay. I was supposed to do... My dad still says that he's mad that I'm not on Broadway.
Oh.
So
he had a vision, and you went and screwed it all up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and he's still, to this day, he's just like, I thought you were going to be on Broadway, and I was just like, you know, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean, you know.
There's that too. Yeah.
Never say never. I could still be on Broadway, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. So anyway. Quick
aside, I just went with my wife because I did an episode with SF Playhouse downtown.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Guys and Dolls.
Oh, nice.
Really, really, really magic.
Cool. I'm into it. I haven't seen the Broadway version, only the movie musical.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, I'm surprised that they haven't done a movie musical.
A new
one. Like,
yeah. You should go if you have a chance. Go see it. It's up, I think, for another month or ish. So 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Go see it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely down. I'm all musical. Like,
nice.
For sure. I go to New York, like, I would say maybe once a year to go see a Broadway show.
You're not joking then.
I was just, like, in London, and I saw my first, like, London Broadway show.
Nice.
So, I'm one of those people. But so my dad was very performance based. Loved telling stories. My dad loved telling stories. He would make them up out of nowhere. He had characters. He would constantly bring out these characters at random times during my childhood. He had a butler character who would serve on us whenever we did tea and cookies. He was called Sir Cookie. We had Bruno, which was like this dumb dude who just never could get anything right and would constantly flail around and like didn't know how to do anything. There's just all these like weird characters that my dad would throw out. And then my mom was just like, I just feel like, it was an addiction. She had this like, she would hoard things, right? And just like use them for random crafts. Like she would like constantly collect toilet paper rolls to make like these weird, I don't know, like just random stuff.
She was resourceful.
Yeah, she would like dumpster dive, and she would only drive us to school on trash day. So that she could get like rummage through the trash. One stone. Yeah, she was like, "Oh, it's Thursday." Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, just random stuff like garage sale, all these different. So, I am also like that. I consistently collect things. I just took a table off the street yesterday, and I'm like,
that's also old school San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
It happens a little bit still.
Yeah.
But especially like end of / beginning of the month.
Oh yeah.
That's just hit the streets and you can furnish your entire, no matter how big or small. You can furnish the whole place. Sunday, we used to like go to church because we actually went to church at this one place on Fillmore, it's still around. And then after that, she'd be like, "We're getting into the car. We're going to garage sales." And and like sometimes if you went at the very end of the garage sales, they're just like throwing it on the street. Yeah.
And so we would just go around and collect all this stuff.
Yep.
And like, I'm not saying that it's like hoarders bad. It was never hoarders bad.
Right.
But it was always like my mom consistently had this delusion that she could do anything creatively, and that got passed on to me, and now I believe that I can creatively MacGyver anything.
I appreciate that.
I mean, I love it.
It could be characterized 1,000 different ways, but like you said, obsessive, and you mentioned not hoarders the show, but like you mentioned potentially hoarding.
Yeah.
But I'm like also resourceful, crafty.
Yeah, it's very crafty.
That's where that word comes from,
very crafty.
right?
Yeah.
I
love that part about me. I love that I have multiple projects happening all at the same time.
You can keep it straight in your head?
So currently at my house, I'm looking, like, I can see all the projects that I have laying around my house. I am consistently cookie decorating on my dining room table. So like all of the icing bags are still out. All of the sprinkles are still out. The cookies are just waiting for me in a little container or whatever.
And we're going there after this recording, right?
If you want some cookies, I have them because I'm going to Chicago, so I don't have to.
Oh shit, that's a problem.
Yeah, so it's a real problem. And then I decided that I also wanted to make fake cookies, so I made cookies out of clay, and I'm making Christmas cookies out of clay.
Got it.
And so I'm cutting them out and doing all that stuff. So yesterday I went from making real cookies to making fake cookies. And
did you make the fake cookies look like the exact real cookies?
Yes.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Of course.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. So, and then I'm using that for like a wall decoration thing that I'm doing.
Awesome.
And so and then I also have like my painting studio that just has all my painting stuff, and then I also have I just brought home a table so that I'm going to paint that. Yep. And then I have like a bunch of other projects that I'm like slowly but surely getting together, so I have to have a lot of space.
That was artist Melan Allen. In part 2, Melan will share more about her life as a food artist. That drops next Tuesday, wherever you get podcasts. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 6th season, we have more than 200 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're able to, please rate and review the show, and drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Keep rejecting those silly doom loop narratives about our city. Stay wacky, weird, healthy, and creative. And we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco. We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcast.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.